Lando and Norris cruises to an emphatic victory in the Dutch Grand Prix as Red Bull and Max Verstappen have no answer to the McLaren driver's pace. Elsewhere, Christian Horner confirms that Red Bull are open to loaning Liam Lawson to Williams for the remainder of the season to replace Logan Sargent. Toto Wolff reveals that Andrea Kimi Antonelli will compete for Mercedes in FP1 in Monza, and Haas are unable to leave the Dutch Grand Prix paddock. From Racing News 365, my name is Nick Golding, and I'm joined once again by Racing News 365 legend Aaron Deckers. Aaron, we've got to start with Lando because actually he made a bad start, lost the lead to Max in the first corner, sat behind the Dutchman for 18 laps, finally got past him with ease and went on to win by 22.9 seconds, the biggest winning margin by a non-Red Bull driver since Lewis Hamilton won the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I mean, it was some statement performance by Norris.
Yeah, he's the real legend of the day, huh? I mean, what a performance of him here in the Netherlands, supported by all the orange. So they were here for Max Verstappen, but they saw already quite quickly in the race that even though Max Verstappen had a great start, the first lap seemed to be all right for the Dutch fans with Max Verstappen. But in the end of the day, what a performance, what a mega performance by Lando Norris. I mean, he just pushed away, and then in the last lap, putting in the quickest lap. I mean, we only saw this lately with Max Verstappen. Now, all of a sudden, Lando Norris showed really off what he and McLaren is capable of doing. So, compliments for Lando Norris. Of course, that's why we chose to stand here with McLaren in the background. They are also happy with this victory. So, after the race, of course, Piastri was hoping on a little bit more. We will come for sure to that later. But, of course, you can imagine that the team is extremely happy because also the pressure in the Constructors' Championship is now full on Red Bull.
Well, obviously, now McLaren are just 30 points behind Red Bull, and in the Drivers' Championship, Norris is only 70 behind Verstappen, which is still a big margin. But even Helmut Marko has said that because of McLaren's pace now, Norris cannot be ruled out of the title fight with Verstappen. It does feel now very much that it's McLaren who do have the best car in F1.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that. Also, Christian Horner, after in his media session mentioned as well, like, we have to be honest, McLaren has made a great step, even though in Belgium they were not that competitive. And of course, we have to see also in Belgium from our side to see what McLaren is capable of. You saw that Horner was clearly mentioning like, okay, we are, behind McLaren. That's also for them easy to say, easy to see. That's just the truth. It was interesting to see that Christian Horner started speaking as well. And when he was asked, like, can you maybe say what is different with the other teams, or why is McLaren making the step and why is Red Bull Racing not doing that anymore, relatively not making the progress like other ones are? And then he mentioned as well, interesting enough, again on the front wings, that he really said like there is the big difference between us, McLaren and Mercedes. He said they made a mega step there, and yeah, it's up to them now for Red Bull Racing as well to come with upgrades. He didn't mention specifically that he would go with a new front wing somewhere during the season, but it was quite clear that, that's where Christian Horner was hinting on, that there the big difference in his opinion is made by McLaren and Mercedes at this moment. And Mercedes, of course, still behind Red Bull in this race. But yeah, McLaren with this pace, so much quicker, especially Lando Norris, impressive to see.
And of course, let's talk about Max, because he did finish second in the end. Not quite the result the home fans are hoping for, but something that was really interesting when watching Max's onboard, and he said this as well on Saturday, that at times when he was turning left, the car just was not turning. There was no input, and that was clearly quite a big problem for him today compared to Lando, who just seemed to have control of his car. It seemed to be that McLaren was really well balanced. It's something which it does appear to be an issue of Red Bull. It seems like the balance and finding the right window for the car for both drivers, both Max and Checo. Checo is down in P6. It seems like that's a real problem for Red Bull at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think actually that Perez, even though, sixth position is not where he should be, of course, but still he had a quite okay weekend. I think he's quite satisfied. He was expecting a difficult weekend, but he looks quite good for Monza. But yes, it's quite worrying for Red Bull that, the main driver, Max Verstappen at the moment, is indeed saying that he doesn't see any progression. And like you say, when we hear the board radio or the comments after the race, it's quite clearly that he's not happy at this point. Also about the car feeling, not just the race pace, but also that. So a lot of things to do still for Red Bull. The team was mentioning that they did a lot of comparison between the two cars. They were a little bit different, the packages, and they did that on purpose to really make some new data available to see then from there what they can do for the rest of the season. But yeah, difficult to say if they really have find something. You didn't really have the feeling right when Max Verstappen made his comments.
And of course, Red Bull maybe feel a little bit lucky because Oscar Piastri was only in fourth and really had the pace for a podium. So McLaren might be only 30 points behind Red Bull, but actually, realistically, that should be a lot lower because Oscar perhaps letting the side down a little bit, finishing behind Charles Leclerc, just couldn't find a way past. It's a good result for McLaren, of course, of Lando winning, but it does feel that with Oscar in fourth, there's perhaps a little bit lost there.
Yeah, indeed, they could have got even more points, right? Though, yeah, Oscar Piastri, I think he's improving a lot, but I think it shows you that a guy like him with such a great record before coming into Formula One, it shows you, I guess, also how difficult it is in
Yeah.
in the current days in Formula One to really be on the level of the main driver. Let's say in this case, Lando Norris, he's a little bit behind. He's honestly also to the press after the race, he's immediately saying like, okay, I'm a little bit off towards Norris. He's just a little bit quicker and has to find it. So yeah, I guess he just needs some time to really find it. But can you imagine indeed if he would have been on the pace of Norris? Yeah, then quite easily they would have been in front. Red Bull, of course, will say the same, like Sergio Perez in the beginning of the season. He was really off, totally not comparable with Piastri, who's just a little bit off, of course. But yeah, I think it's a pity and a shame for him that he couldn't make it stick with Leclerc when Norris showed that the car is capable of even passing a Red Bull in the race, not on strategy, but really passing him on the track.
Definitely. And we've got to mention Leclerc because I don't think any of us predicted that there would be a Ferrari on the podium in P3. A really, really good drive by Charles today.
Well, what an amazing job, right? He was also himself surprised by it. He was like, wow, I'm here. Like, it's so amazing to see what he's doing. And I think, yeah, also for Leclerc, of course, he had the great victory in his home race. But then also, yeah, quite a difficult season, I think, for him. Sometimes he's really there. Sometimes he's just off. Some unlucky crashes. It's like not really his season. So I think also for him, the right moment he sees to getting in the right form, especially with the home Grand Prix coming up next week. And also Fernando Alonso was already mentioning Ferrari is the team to beat in the next two races. So, of course, we know Fernando Alonso, he knows how to, like make a nice quote, put the pressure a little bit on Ferrari. Fred Vasseur, we asked him about this quote, and he was, immediately, of course, in a smiling way, as Vasseur always is, like in a defense mode, like, hey, we know what we have to do in Italy. Yes, we know that we got to be quick, but this year, 3/10 of a second, it can make such a difference position-wise. And we see that up the front, of course, as well. If it's Perez or it's Piastri, when you're just losing 2 or 3 tenths on your second, you're really some places down. Where in other seasons, the season here before, sometimes you could have even been right behind your teammates still. So yeah, nice to see, and especially interesting to see, right? If Leclerc can keep this form bring it to Italy, to the home Grand Prix.
And I see if there's a place where he needs to perform for Ferrari, it would be Monza. But obviously for Ferrari this weekend, with Leclerc in third, Carlos Sainz in fifth, it's a really strong result for the team in the Constructors' Championship because Mercedes in the last few rounds have been taking some points out of them, obviously with all their victories. Seventh for George Russell, eighth for Lewis Hamilton. The Mercedes just didn't seem to really work today. And even Lewis said that really the car felt its best on Friday before they made so many changes ahead of qualifying it. Mercedes have got to be a bit disappointed and a little bit confused of why they were so far off this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. So interesting to see, especially also with Lewis Hamilton. Of course, he said yesterday he changed the setting of the car quite massively, the setup from Friday to Saturday. And then today, if you see his long run also, it was like incredible, like what he was showing. And Russell, he was struggling a little bit more when he felt really good on the Friday. At least the result of his long run looked really good in the Friday. So yeah, I guess Mercedes still looking for that sweet spot, right? Sometimes they found it this year. They're still a little bit off, but at least the margin seems to be a little bit more closer than other years. And I think also for them, seeing that they also did well in Silverstone, they did well in Spa, you would expect them, I guess, also to be good next week in Monza and the race after in Baku.
And of course, something we do now know about Monza is that Andrea Antonelli will be competing for Mercedes in FP1. He turns 18 today, actually, so happy birthday, Andrea. Toto Wolff kind of joked that it's kind of the worst kept secret that Antonelli would be completing FP1 for Mercedes. It's going to be really exciting to see what he can do in his first real test alongside all the other drivers. Because, of course, all the testing he's done previously has been in older cars. It'll be his first time in the W15.
Yes, he can now really show in a practice field in the real Grand Prix, what he's worth. We don't know, of course, if he's going to get a set of soft tires to really show what he's worth. Probably not. But just us as
Fingers
the
crossed.
fans.
Come on,
Yeah,
give it to him.
it's just us that want to see that. But yeah, interesting weekend for him. Also, I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on him, of course, because he's going to get a lot of media attention. He still has to focus on his own stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he's going to perform and how he's going to cope with it. But yeah, everything very looks like you said already, the worst kept secret of the paddock, that he is going to go to Mercedes. Interesting to see if they also do the announcement over there
Yeah.
for next year already.
And of course, only time will tell. Thankfully, in a race which featured not a single retirement, not one yellow flag, there's been a lot of news
Well,
off the circuit. And of course, on Saturday, we saw what happened with Logan Sargent in free practice 3, a massive crash. It was quickly reported in Germany by Automotor and Sport that James Vowles is potentially considering dropping Sargent ahead of Monza, and a couple of names. They mentioned Mick Schumacher. Today, Christian Horner has obviously openly said that they would be open to loaning Liam Lawson, obviously, if they're allowed to bring him back quickly. It does seem like there could be something maybe happening at Williams, and that Lawson is an option.
yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, Christian Horner was not turning around or driving around on it. He was really on it, and he said, like, okay, it's true. We had some conversations. Conversations are going. Probably from what we are hearing, the conversations will be going also in the rest of the week. But yeah, are they really going to go through? I mean, Horner also mentioned we might be needing Lawson ourselves this year. So if something happens with one of the drivers, for example. So I don't think it's really done yet. Also, Logan Sargent seemed quite confident still that he's, there next week in Italy. He said he also doesn't bother him, all the rumors. He's not busy with it, especially also not after a crash. He's really focusing on himself. But yeah, quite interesting to see what's going on. We are hearing also Mick Schumacher was rumored to be going in the seat. Maybe that was also mentioned earlier that didn't happen. Also, Jack Doohan was mentioned in the seat earlier in the season, didn't happen. So yeah, a lot of confusion around the Williams team at the moment. So quite unclear what will happen in the next days at Williams, who's going to take the seat, or it's going to be in the end just Logan Sargent and keep things stable at the team right after the summer break.
And with the Italian Grand Prix only next weekend, I think we will find out very, very quickly. But we've got to finish off on what has been the big story from the entire weekend. And it comes from Haas and, of course, their former title partner, Uralcla, who are demanding payment. And Racing News 365 understands that Haas are unable to currently leave the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we are on the story already from the beginning since Thursday night, when we find out things were not going the right way for Haas, and it's still not going in the right way, according to the lawyer of the sponsor who still wants the money. They are saying, okay, a payment has not been done yet. From what we understand from their side, they still say like, okay, it could be tomorrow, but we have not seen anything of guarantees. We're just hearing it, and we have the words, but nothing more than that. Also, 2021 car of Haas should be going to Russia, let's say, because they promised the car as well, and also that one was not respected yet so far. So they have to and send the money and send the car. And of course, when there are guarantees, I think the process will go much quicker. But for now, it means they cannot leave this paddock. So it will be taken at least until tomorrow morning, but it could also be taken some hours in the day or maybe even the evening. In the worst case scenario, the money won't be transferred, and then of course it's going to be becoming a real problem. So far, Haas is very confident to everyone, saying that no, the payment has been done on the Friday. It just takes some time to wire the money because of the restrictions between the United States and Russia. So yeah, very interesting case. Of course, as Formula One fans, we all hope that everything will be solved. That they have to pay the money. That will be done, and that afterwards they can travel to Italy. But definitely bad start for the weekend already for us for next week, because if you see behind me, as you mentioned, they're like getting away. They're packing up all the stuff already, and everything has to be as soon as possible on the way to Italy, because it's quite a far ride, some 1,400 kilometers from here. So yeah, you can imagine that the quicker you are, the more easy it gets during the weekend. So definitely no good weekend coming up for us. At least the preparations of the weekend are not good. Hopefully it won't affect the results later in the week.
Definitely, and hopefully it can all be sorted quickly. And obviously, when any more news does drop on the situation, be sure to check out Racing News 365 for the quickest of updates. Aaron, before I let you go, You've somehow gotten your predictions correct all weekend, which has never happened on .com. So what has been for you, though, the biggest takeaway, the biggest discovery from this weekend? Because despite the fact the race wasn't the most exciting, actually, there's been a lot of lessons learned from it.
Then I would
On
go
the
for
spot.
yeah, then I would go for Lando Norris. I mean, what he's showing this weekend, and also
Yeah.
somehow maybe I see totally wrong and totally different next week. Things will be totally different, but somehow his attitude has changed a little bit this weekend. He's very easygoing with the victory, like really reacting like calm and like he seems on a mission, in my opinion. But maybe it's just exaggerated from my side, or maybe it's just this weekend. But that was a little bit the feeling I had, and I like to see it that he's really like, yeah, a little bit like Max Verstappen as well. Always like, okay, ready for the next already. Somehow, some way, we are still reflecting on today, and it seems like those guys are already thinking of the next one. So if it's something, that's from my side. I don't know what you have picked up.
For me, it's got to be that it does feel like McLaren do have the strongest car. I think we were kind of in the last few rounds. Is it McLaren? Is it not? But I think now when a driver wins by nearly 23 seconds, McLaren do have the best car. And with 9 races remaining, yes, McLaren can definitely beat Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. The big question is 70 points too big a gap for Norris to catch the Verstappen? Only time will tell. Aaron, you have been an absolute legend this weekend filling in for Ian. I'm glad to see that the sun is shining.
Yeah.
This has been the latest F1 update from RacingNews365.com. Be sure to check out the website for all the fallout from the Grand Prix. From myself and Aaron, we'll see you later.
Thanks
Bye.
so much, Nick. Bye bye. Bye bye.